Another spring of summer had slowly passed through the little forest at the edge of the small mountain village. All the trees were ablaze with beautiful fall colors. It was a crisp, clear autumn night. The starlit sky was a deep midnight purple. Christie and Misty strolled quietly through the enchanted forest, enjoying the beautiful evening together as they gazed up at the stars glittering in the moonlit sky. As they looked towards the eastern sky, dark clouds began to form. The dark clouds slowly drifted over the enchanted forest, and heavy snowflakes began to fall. The snowflakes floated effortlessly down from the darkened sky, covering the trees and painting everything white on the forest floor, a sure sign that Christmas was on its way. Suddenly, to their astonishment, they saw a flashing yellow streak of light hurtling through the snow-filled sky. It was heading straight in their direction. "It's a spaceship," they cried, as it disappeared into the forest a short distance from where they were standing. Christie and Misty became very excited. They were also curious. As quickly as they could, they ventured through the woods to where the mysterious object had landed. There it was, as big as life, a small spaceship, and it was still intact. Christie and Misty hid behind some larger trees and watched in amazement as brightly colored lights flashed on and off. The spaceship appeared undamaged. "Let's move in a little closer so we can get a better look at this thing," suggested Christie bravely. "I guess that's the only way we're going to find out what it is," replied Misty. Quietly, the two trees crept up to the strange-looking machine and peered through the window. The machine looked empty and deserted. Not a trace of life could be seen. "Let's find a way to get inside," Christie said. Before the words were out of his mouth, the door on the side of the craft slid open as if inviting them in. Glancing at each other for courage, Christie and Misty climbed aboard. Christie started to push buttons and pull levers up and down. "Hey, Misty, try this. This is neat." Christie was beginning to have a great time. Without any warning, the door to the small spaceship silently closed, locking them inside. "What have you done, Christie?" Misty cried. "We are locked in here now. How are we going to get out?" "Don't be frightened, Misty," Christie said, trying to stay calm. "I'll just push some more of these buttons and pull some more of these levers, and we'll be out of here in a flash." He pulled on a lever that he hadn't tried before. The craft began to vibrate, and a soft humming noise filled the interior of the small spaceship. Before they knew what was happening, the small ship rose up off the ground, picked up speed, and hurled them out into deep space at an alarming rate. They looked at each other in disbelief. Misty and Christie were shivering with fright right down to their little wooden toes. The little ship carried them farther and farther out into space. Christie and Misty thought it would never stop. Finally, the craft began to slow down. They clutched each other for comfort as the spaceship descended softly into a strange forest. There wasn't anything in this forest that looked familiar to them. Slowly, the door of the spaceship slid open, and without a word, Christie and Misty stepped out into the unfamiliar forest, as if being pushed by some unknown force. The realization of being on another planet fascinated both of them, but this gave them little comfort. This planet was very much like Earth, except it had very peculiar-looking trees. A thick blanket of snow covered the forest floor. The sky was a beautiful dark blue, and millions of stars lit up the night sky. Christie wandered wistfully if one of the stars above him might be his home. They started to weave their way carefully through the dark, unfamiliar forest. They were hoping to find something or someone that might tell them where they were and help them to get back to their home on earth. Eventually, they came to a winding road. "If there's a road, it's sure to lead us somewhere," Misty said, her spirits rising. At that moment, Misty stopped very abruptly. "I hear a noise in the distance," she whispered, her soft voice quivering. "It's coming from way down the road. Quick, let's duck behind these trees." The sound began to get louder. Lights appeared in the darkness, bouncing off the treetops. Whatever it was surely getting closer. Moments later, a large truck laden down with a heavy load of something that looked like silver leaves. They glistened in the moonlight as the truck passed right by their hiding place. As the truck slowly continued on its journey, something fell off the back and rolled to the side of the road. As soon as the truck was out of sight, Christie and Misty immediately jumped up and ran over to investigate. To their amazement, they found a little silver tree, shaken and twisted up, but slowly started moving and regaining its senses. The little tree was startled to see two strange-looking trees staring down at him. "Please do not be alarmed," Misty said softly, trying to console the little tree. "We are Christmas trees from planet Earth. My name is Misty, and this is my friend Christie. We will not harm you." The little silver tree breathed a sigh of relief. "My name is Silverleaf, and I am a robot Christmas tree. All the Christmas trees on this planet are robots." "We wondered what all that gleaming silver material was," Christie said. "How did you fall off that truck?" Christie asked. "And where was that truck taking all those trees?" Silverleaf looked at his two new friends and decided to trust them. He began to explain to Christie and Misty the sad tale of what had taken place on his planet. "The first thing is, I did not fall off that truck. I jumped. I was on my way along with all those other trees to be taken to the Christmas tree factory to be dismantled." Silverleaf went on to explain that his planet was inhabited by kind and generous people. However, one day, not long ago, an evil humanoid, who called himself Naster, arrived here from another planet with a small army of robots. He instructed his robots to seize control over our small planet. The people of this planet were no match for his robot army. Naster was a very mean and powerful humanoid. He controlled his army with some sort of hypnotic spell. The people had no choice but to surrender to his will. Naster proclaimed that Christmas would no longer be celebrated or tolerated on this planet. He commanded that all robot Christmas trees were to be rounded up and destroyed. He ordered all the people from his planet to remove all the computer chips from all the Christmas trees and have the trees sent back to the Christmas tree factory to be dismantled. Silverleaf continued his story, telling Christie and Misty how his master left his computer chip in place, and telling him to remain perfectly still and to pretend that it had been removed. He had also told him to jump off the truck as it drove through the dark forest and to hide there until it was safe to return. "I sure wouldn't want to try that again," he said, with a little painful grimace on his face. Christie and Misty then explained to Silverleaf how they had come to be on this planet, how the small spacecraft had brought them there so safely, yet so mysteriously. "We are very lucky to have a magic Christmas angel tree from Christmasland," Christie said proudly. who has bestowed upon us the gift of life." Misty went on to tell Silverleaf that they were eager to help him get rid of that evil humanoid Naster. "Just tell us what we can do," Christie said. Silverleaf thought for a moment, then said, "The only way to rid this planet of Naster and his evil power is to remove his power source. He has a bionic chip that makes him function." "Sounds easy to me," Christie replied bravely. "Now how do we do it?" "Well, I guess we'll need a good plan," Silverleaf said, hesitating for a moment. "The bionic chip is in the back of Naster's head. There is a small door that you must first open to gain access to the chip. You will see a red button just below the back of his neck. You must push this button and the door will open, exposing the chip. You must firmly grasp the chip and pull it straight out, and the deed is done." "Sounds like a piece of cake to me," said Misty, with a nervous laugh. "Perhaps," said Silverleaf, "but here is the catch. There are 2 big robot guards protecting his special chamber while he sleeps." "How do we disable these 2 guards?" Misty asked. "I'll show you," Silverleaf replied. He opened a small door in his tree trunk and said, "Push this black button and my computer chip will automatically pop out. The robot's chips are identical to mine. You will find their compartment on their upper back. The black button is just below the compartment." "One more thing," Misty said. "We need to know where Naster's special chamber is located." "You will find his chamber in the back of the Christmas tree factory," Silverleaf replied. "The factory is located down by the old stone quarry at the end of this road." "If that's all we need to know, then lead the way, Silverleaf," Misty said in a trembling voice. Off the trio went down the dark, winding road. The 3 of them felt nervous, but excited at the prospect of their new adventure. When they arrived at the old stone quarry, they were tired and they all rested for a few moments. Christie volunteered to sneak up to the factory and check it out. Silverleaf and Misty agreed to stay hidden in the woods until Christie returned. Christie cautiously made his way through the dark shadows to the old building. He saw hundreds of lifeless silver trees piled up in front of the big steel doors. Several robots were picking up the trees and carrying them into the factory to be dismantled. It was a sad sight to see. Christie noticed that the factory did not appear to be heavily guarded. After his quick assessment of the situation, Christie hurried back to Misty and Silverleaf. He then told them what he had seen, then said, "I have a plan." His idea was that he and Misty would creep down to the factory, and when the guards were out of sight, they would lie down with the other trees, pretending they were part of the pile. "We will need some silver paint to disguise ourselves," Christie added. Silverleaf said, "You will find some silver paint stored away in the big blue shed on the far side of the factory. Luckily, the shed is never locked or guarded." Christie volunteered once more to go down to the shed and bring back the silver paint. Christie left quickly and ran quietly through the darkness. When he arrived at the shed, he entered unnoticed. He snatched the silver paint and hurried back up the hill. With Silverleaf's help, Misty and Christie were transformed into glistening silver trees. "Now you look just like me," Silverleaf laughed with much delight. "You must wait here," Silverleaf said, "Christie. Your tin leaves make too much noise. It is not safe for you to come with us." "You are right," sighed Silverleaf. "Go now, be careful, and good luck." When Christie and Misty reached the bottom of the hill, they waited in the darkness until the coast was clear. Then they ran over to where the other trees were piled. They laid down in the snow in front of all the other silver trees. Soon the guards returned for another load. They grabbed Christie and Misty right away and carried them roughly into the factory. Once inside, they threw the 2 trees down beside the dismantling machine. Then the 2 robots left to gather more trees. Christie and Misty knew they hadn't a moment to lose. They jumped up and raced to the back of the factory, where they found a door leading to the hallway. Christie opened the door slowly and peeked down the long, narrow hallway. Sure enough, it was just as Silverleaf described. There were 2 huge guards standing in front of another door several meters down the hall. "That must be the special chamber we are looking for," Christie whispered. "Now all we have to do is find a way to get by those mean-looking guards." "I've got an idea," Misty said. "Let's pretend we are malfunctioning. We'll stumble and stagger down the hall towards the robots. If we can catch them off guard, maybe we can find a way to remove their computer chip." "Good idea, Misty," Christie said. "There's only one problem," Misty said slowly. "I'm scared." "So am I," Christie admitted. "But we must find the courage. If we fail in this, Silverleaf will never see another Christmas." The 2 trees squeezed each other for courage, then opened the door. They began to stumble and stagger down the hall towards the 2 robots. One guard spotted them and said to the other, "Look at those 2 trees. Their behavior is very odd. They must have a malfunction, staggering around like that. We had better take a look at them. Maybe their computer chips have not been removed." His partner laughed and said, "They are the funniest looking Christmas trees I have ever seen. We better take them back to the junk pile before they wake up Naster. He will have a fit." At that moment, Christie and Misty sprang into action. Together they bravely threw themselves at one of the guards, taking him by surprise. While the guard was down and helpless, Christie swiftly opened the compartment on the robot's back and pushed the black button. Instantly, the robot's chip popped out and fell to the floor. "That one was easy," he said to himself. Christie then glanced up to see Misty in full flight, running down the hall. She suddenly turned and outmaneuvered the huge guard and started running back towards him. The other guard was in hot pursuit. Christie, with disregard for his own safety, quickly threw himself under the guard's feet. It worked. The startled robot crashed to the floor in a heap. In a flash, Misty opened the door to the compartment on his back and pushed the black button. The computer chip popped out and slid along the cement floor, rendering the other guard helpless. The 2 trees breathed a sigh of relief. "I'm glad that's over," Misty said. "So am I," Christie beamed. "We sure make a good team," Misty said with a smile. "Now for the main event. Let's get that evil Naster fellow." Misty pushed open the door, just a crack, that led to Naster's chamber, and peered into the room. There he was, as big as life, on a large, ugly bed, snoring noisily as he slept. Misty cautiously pushed the door all the way open. They crept over to his bed as silently as possible. At a glance, Misty spotted the red button on the back of his neck. Without hesitation, she quickly pushed the red button as hard as she could, holding her breath in fear. Christie stood back, watching in amazement. How courageous she was, he thought. The little door sprang open, exposing the bionic chip. Misty reached over, got a firm grip on the chip, and with all her strength she gave it a good hard tug. She pulled so hard she fell backwards awkwardly onto the floor. Christie ran over and gently helped her to her feet. Proudly she held the bionic chip in her little wooden hands. Naster was now finally disabled. Christie and Misty looked at each other and started laughing so hard they almost cried. They felt so proud of what they had accomplished. They joined hands and danced around the motionless body of Naster, knowing that his evil could no longer control this planet. Christie and Misty soon joined Silverleaf, who was hiding in the forest, lying in wait for them. They explained every detail of their venture to Silverleaf. He could hardly believe his planet's good fortune. The spell that Naster had cast over his robot army had now been broken. One by one, the robot army gathered around the three heroes and cheered loudly. They lifted the three brave heroes onto their shoulders and paraded them about. It was a joyful celebration. Finally, when all the excitement had died down, the robots began the arduous task of placing all the computer chips back into the silver Christmas trees. They didn't have much time, as Christmas was only 3 days off, and there were many trees that had to be reassembled. Christie and Misty set out on a journey with Silverleaf to meet some of the inhabitants of this small planet to inform them of the good news. When the three of them arrived at Silverleaf's home, Silverleaf's owner gathered all the people together. The people could not thank the trio enough. The little trio shrugged and said, it was nothing. The three brave trees looked at each other and started to laugh once again, relieved that their dangerous mission had been a success. In the flurry of all the excitement, Misty and Christie had forgotten where they were. All of a sudden they remembered they had no way to get home. The spaceship they traveled in to reach this planet had disappeared as mysteriously as it had appeared. Misty cried, "I know what to do. We'll try to summon our magic angel Christmas tree from Christmasland. She promised that she would always be watching over us. She'll return us to our forest." "Yeah, in the excitement I forgot all about her," Christie replied. Together they turned around 3 times and whispered the magic words. "Winter, winter wonderland, Christmas angel we command, appear to us from Christmasland." In a flash, a brilliant blue light streaked through the sky, and there before them stood a beautiful Christmas angel. She greeted them and their new friend with a warm smile and said, "I am very proud of all of you." She turned to Silverleaf and said, "I knew that you and the people of this planet would need some help with that evil Naster. That is why I sent Misty and Christie to help." She turned back to Christie and Misty and said, "It was time to test your courage. I am very pleased with your bravery on all that you have accomplished here." She faced the crowd and smiled. "Now I must send Misty and Christie back to their enchanted forest." She reached out to touch the small silver tree who stood beside Christie and Misty and said, "Someday, Silverleaf, I will send you to visit them and all their forest friends." "That would be great," Silverleaf replied happily. The time had come for Christie and Misty to say goodbye. They thanked everyone for the wonderful adventure, and they all wished each other a Merry Christmas. The magic angel tree passed her magic wand over Christie and Misty. There was a blinding flash of light, and when they opened their eyes, they were delighted to find themselves back home in their enchanted forest. Their friends were all there to greet them. It was a joyful reunion. Christie and Misty decided to spend Christmas with their old friend, Grandfather Pine Tree. They strolled happily through the woods to his home in Pine Needle Flats and spent a wonderful day reminiscing with the wise old pine tree. Later that evening, all their forest friends joined them. They all gathered around and listened intently to the amazing story of the evil humanoid and their adventures on another planet.